Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Anime King 2. And I'm back with something new for you guys to enjoy. You already know yourself, but I just want to thank you for the idea. So here it is, finally be done by me, guys. What if Naruto was trained in another world? Yes, guys. In this depiction of a what if Naruto is going to venture in another world where he is going to be trained by things that he would have never imagined existed. And then he's going to return back home after many years. And the people of the elemental nation will see the transformation that he's underwent. However, as we already know, when anything has to do with a interdimensional split between the elemental nation and another world, there is always some problematic event that follows. So will he be able to overcome it? Well, if you want to see, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. So yeah, let's jump right into this. Begin the intro. We begin this new series with Naruto Uzumaki, as he was having a hard time breathing at the moment. A drop-dead gorgeous woman was currently suffocating him with her chest. It wasn't truly her desire. However, she was just going to miss him so much. As someone walked up towards her, "I think you're going to kill him," the person said, making her immediately pull Naruto back as she started to frantically check over him. However, he was just fine. His name was Naruto Uzumaki. He possessed blonde spiky hair, blue eyes. He was currently 15 years old, standing at 5 feet 9 inches. The woman, on the other hand, she had golden hair, not blonde, gold, that ran down into her back. Her eyes were red, with a strange pattern like a flower petal unraveling. Her figure was something that most men would die for, and most women would be extremely jealous over, especially the top half. And the man that tried to save Naruto's life that stood beside her possessed silver hair. He was the same height as Naruto, but his features look rather younger, green eyes, and dressed in a black and white clothing. He's going to be just okay, right? On his back was a purple-haired girl with green eyes. She wrapped both of her arms around his face. However, the most endearing thing about her was the horns that was jetting from her skull. Yes, she had 2 demonic horns, her red eyes making her look rather dangerous. She looked to be the youngest out of the group as she was small. However, she was the oldest. We all knew that this day would come, and it is finally here. So this is not a sad goodbye. It should be a happy one, knowing that we've been so much a part of his life. A rough voice said Turning was a man. He had purple skin. He was humongous, twice the size of Naruto. Yes, he was large. His body was full with muscles all over, seeing that he was only wearing pants. He was hulking. He had beady black eyes. Not to mention he had a tail as well that was whipping behind him, a purple tail as he stepped forward. The young girl jumped off Naruto's back. Naruto gazed up towards the man in front of him. The next moment, the man brought his arm down. The entire place exploded as the ground was ripped asunder. The others started to glow as they protect themselves with an aura. Naruto was standing there fine, but the ground had dropped at least 9 feet down, as Naruto had blocked it with one of his own arm. Given the size of the man, that was truly impressive. I can see that our teaching has not gone to waste, he said with a smile on his face. Naruto was about to say something, but suddenly, an astral form of him was pulled out of his body. Turning as he looked to see a yellow glowing rift in space and time, it was pulling him towards it. It seems I don't have much time left, he said. I'm going to miss you all, he said. The older woman jumped back towards him and started to hug him to death once again, the younger one climbing on his back. I don't care how impossible it might be. I'll find a way to open another one, and I'll come here once again, Naruto said, as the other man walked over and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Well, you are a kid that is able to make the impossible into possible. So I hope you do, he said. And I hope we get to see this Konoha of yours. After all, it's another wide open world with so many beautiful ladies, I suppose, he said, as he was drooling at the mouth, which caused the older woman to punch him away and send him into the trees. He came back a moment later though, as he was completely fine. Once again the rift started to pull Naruto back. It's time, the larger man said. Tears came to Naruto's eyes as he looked at them. They have been his family for many years now, and now he was going to leave. As he looked at the young girl, her name was Milo. Well, that is what he called her. Her true title was the Empress of Death, and there was a reason for that. The older, voluptuous woman, her name was Selena. She was like a mother and a sister, wrapped into one. The pervert of the group, the one that was just punched away, his name was Natsu. He was like Naruto's older brother. And the hulking man, his name was Might, the very definition of strength itself. Unfortunately though, Naruto was not from this world, so he had to leave, forcefully. As his last words to them was, I love you guys. His words caused Selena to cry. Even Natsu was tearing up a bit. Milo was crying her eyes out. However, Might looked at Naruto with a proud smile on his face as Naruto was yanked his last goodbye to them as he was pulled through the rift that closed behind him, something they could not enter through. As they watched it close up and vanish. You think we will see him again, Milo said. Selena reached down and picked Milo up, despite Milo being a lot older than her, treating her like a little girl. Anything is possible, she said. Yeah, I think we will. I mean, it is Naruto after all, Natsu said with a smile. As Mike turned around, it seems that we're not alone, he said. Upon saying that, they all turned their gaze, Milo flying out of Selena's hand. As many things were coming their way, Milo got incredibly angry as a red aura started to glow around her. The entire place started to break up and rip apart. She was pissed. Just after losing her closest friend, someone that she considered a family member, these things were coming their way. She was going to wipe them all out, and she meant business. However, we're going straight to the elemental nation. It was a beautiful day within Konoha. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping. The place was calm and sweet. People were going about their day, doing what they needed to do to survive. In the past, there was many worrying, many shuffling around due to war and chaos that took place. But on this very beautiful day, boom! Everyone was alerted by that. Behind the monument, where the massive stone heads reside, an explosion unlike any other ripped through. The animals immediately took off, running away. Immediately envoys made their way, ninjas trying to move in to get the civilians to safety just in case. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the current Hokage of the village, the leader of his people, wasted no time. Report, he said, immediately taking charge of the situation. His envoys that were on 24/7 watch immediately flashed out as Hiruzen Sarutobi went out to protect his home. Arriving to the scene first was a group of envoy that was stationed around the area as perimeter guards within the village. They landed as they were appalled by what they saw. The once beautiful forest that lay behind the monument was now reduced to a wasteland. Whatever hit this area had enough power to eviscerate everything in its wake. Trees were blown to sunder. The ground was uprooted. It was like a meteor fell from the heavens. Lying there in the smoke on his back was none other than Naruto. The sensor of the team tried to pinpoint if there was anyone here. He started to spread his senses. Unfortunately, due to the confusion and the pain, he accidentally sensed everything, not just a small amount, as Naruto was confused by his landing to rein himself in. The man's brain was overloaded with information, and there was a reason for that, as he tried to measure what he was sensing, which caused him to collapse. The other one near to him caught him. "What's wrong? What's going on?" he said, trying to wake him out of this strange daze. He had no choice but to remove the mask, as his eyes were rolled back in his head. He checked his pulse, he was alive. However, something seemed to have discombobulated his senses, to the point that it put him in this state of complete unawareness. He was still conscious, but his mind just forcefully collapsed on itself, unable to bear what it felt. Luckily, though, Naruto reined himself in. As he pulled himself out of the ground, he was completely fine. The rift that sent him back had sent him back with so much force he had no idea why, as his body had ripped the ground to sunders when he did crash. He picked himself up though, as he started to dust himself off. Him clapping down his clothing was immediately noticed. The envoys flashed around him, too, as the other one remained with their unconscious comrade. There was no need to, after all. The others were already coming. Blade was already drawn. "Identify yourself." The one that stood in front of Naruto said. "Easy," he said, raising his hand. "I'm not a..." Wait. He went into his shirt pocket. However, he was forgetting that the identification that he used in the other world would not work here. They immediately took that as an act of him ready to pull out a weapon, not trusting anything after all. He just crashed in their home, causing destruction. Immediately, the envoy sped towards him, swinging the tanto. Naruto was still focused on searching his pocket when he looked up, as he blinked to see the man racing towards him. However, his perception and Naruto's perception were two different things. The envoy sliced, but Naruto was already able to move out of the way. The other one went for a critical blow that would knock him out, but Naruto weaved under the punch and stepped away, only for the ground underneath him to sink by the third member, who had to put the sensor aside. Now that they had him, they had to restrain him. They both went through hand sign, but the massive earth arms that tried to hold Naruto exploded as he leaped above the trees that would have been there. He quickly descended back down as they launched kunais towards him. Naruto caught the two that aimed to his face and lifted his leg despite being in mid-air rather easily dodging the other two. He flipped and landed down to the ground. He held the kunais up. However, he was only doing so to give it back to them. Once again, they mistook his actions as they launched a collaboration of two fireball jutsus right towards him, the other one making its way behind Naruto and creating a massive earth wall that would stop him from escaping as the attack collided with him. There was no question about that. However, the earth user felt a hand on his shoulder. He was shocked, unable to believe what he was witnessing. Would you guys let me explain? I'm not an enemy. He knocked away Naruto's hand and immediately reached once again to knock him out, as he did not seem to be aiming to kill. However, Naruto caught his fists, cancelling out the pressure rather easily. The man was surprised by that, as Naruto gripped his other arm, now holding on to him. The other two, though, descended upon Naruto with their blade, believing that he was about to kill their comrade. Surrounded by the threats, his cheeks bulged. Naruto then released a powerful gust of wind from his mouth, so violent that the three of them were sent sailing away. As the smoke and the dust started to clear away, Naruto had to wipe his eyes. A lot of dust was kicked up. I can't even explain, he said, but he wasn't too surprised, given the place that he's been for the last couple of years. He's seen and went through a lot of this, believing that he was a threat without letting him explain. The next moment, though, he found himself surrounded as the others finally arrived. But they were not alone, descending upon the scene himself, not wanting the threat to escalate. Hiruzen Sarutobi was there. The civilians had not been fully evacuated. Given the proximity of where they were located, he could not afford for any threat that were powerful enough to destroy the landscape so much to leak into the village. It took him more time than expected, but there he stood, within his armor, clad and ready to fight. He started to take notice of the person that had their hands up, which made him raise an eyebrow. Dressed in a black and red clothing, he was wearing a long black cloak, a red shirt underneath, with spiral black patterns on it, and there was also two horns on the breast pocket of it. Black pants along with black boots. He had a bag, one that was small around the back of his waist, and another one on his back under the coat. But his hands were raised in surrender, showing his muscular form. While he wasn't that extremely large, he had a slim, thick build. His face was finally fully revealed to all of them. Blonde, spiky hair, blue eyes, 3 whisker marks on each of his cheeks. When Hiruzen noticed the marks, his eyes widened. Flashback. Hiruzen Sarutobi was speaking to a 3-year-old boy. This 3-year-old boy name was Naruto Uzumaki. He was a special child unlike most other children. He was currently within the orphanage. Naruto's status was a secret to the world. So far, Hiruzen had been able to control the information, stopping it from being leaked. However, while he was doing that, his own former partner Danzo Shimura was plotting to reveal this information very soon, to use it to undermine Hiruzen, because he knew that Hiruzen would defend the boy. However, as Hiruzen was sitting and talking with the 3-year-old Naruto, the boy had enough common understanding to have a proper conversation with him, while not knowing a lot. However, the boy was super excited to know that he was the leader of the entire village. This was the first time that he was actually meeting him at this age, something that was already embarrassing upon itself. But given what has been taking place after the massive Ninetales attack, well, he could be forgiven to a sense. He was one man. Naruto was super excited though, happily so to meet the man and talk to him as they were seated there, and that was the first day that he met him. In the flashback, the whisker marks, the blue eyes, the blonde hair, but his age did not line up. He looked much older than 12. As he said the name, Naruto? Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto blinked as he looked at the man. Old man, he said. As he stepped forward, weapons were drawn and raised even more. He stopped in his tracks. Would you tell them that I'm not the enemy? That I lived here once, Naruto said. Is that really you? Hiruzen said, stepping forward. However, he stopped himself. He wasn't a naive fool that knew that there wasn't many that would try to trick him into walking into his own death. Naruto went missing when he was 3 years old. And that was 9 years ago. And this does not look like a 12-year-old boy. He had the features, he had everything. If you are Naruto Uzumaki, place your hands behind your back and surrender yourself, so we can make sure of that, Hiruzen said. Naruto had no problem doing that, as he turned his back. The Anvus restrained him. He gave up so easily. Time skip. It was a good thing that, as a baby and as a young boy, blood had been taken from the child and stored. It was something that was done for many, but Naruto was a special case. To ensure that the beast did not truly corrode the boy's system, blood was taken when he was a baby and examined under Hiruzen's orders, and it was taken again when he was 3 years old and examined. However, there was nothing that was showing that his blood had been altered. There was still many mysteries to the Nine Tails, left without an answer, left without much. Given that Minato died before he could arrive, but he was able to speak to Kushina though, the boy's mother. So all they needed to do was perform a blood test to find out if this was truly him. However, snap. The examiner was rather shocked as the needle broke on his skin. Sorry about that, said Naruto. Let me. However, what followed was the Anvus in the room getting startled. The cuffs that were supposed to suppress his chakra, the cuffs that were supposed to be strong enough to bind him, immediately shattered as he exerted his strength to move his arms. Hiruzen, who was standing there, took notice of that. However, the boy showed no intent to attack, so he raised his arm, stopping them. Given all I've been through, my skin is really durable, so it's gonna need a lot more than just that needle to pierce it, Naruto said. He placed 2 fingers on where she was trying to pierce. The next moment, his skin sliced, just small enough for blood to trickle out. There you go. As she used the other needle and placed it there to take the blood. Once they were done, the wound healed up immediately. They were rather surprised by that. They immediately ran the blood tests, and after a while they got the results. It was a perfect match. Making his way down the hall as Naruto was placed in one of the interrogation rooms. They weren't interrogating him. However, it was the best place. The suppression seals in there would be enough to suppress any chakra exertion, and the room would be strong enough to withstand any force that he might lash out without chakra. Well, at least they hope. The door finally opened up as Hiruzen stepped inside, as he was without his guards. You are Naruto Uzumaki, he said, as he pulled the chair and sat down. I told you. Don't you remember me, Naruto said. I do remember you. It was a week before I was sent away that you came. I was so surprised and honored to be picked by the Hokage. I mean, you didn't talk to the other kids as long as you talked to me. And you came back a day later, and you asked me how I was doing. That was so awesome, Naruto said. When I found out that you were the leader of the entire village, I had hoped to be just like you one day. Hiruzen looked at Naruto, happy to hear that, but more so he was wondering, what happened to you, he said. Where did you go? And why do you seem much older than the age that you should be? Yeah, there's a lot of explaining, Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. Well, you see, flashback. Naruto was in the forest, having explored something he was fond of. But he shouldn't have gone so far because by the time he was ready to return, the place got too dark. He had to head back to the orphanage. He started to panic as he couldn't find his way. The place was getting too dark, and he was starting to get afraid. He loved to explore and find new things, but this exploration got him deep within the forest. That is when a strange golden rift appeared in the far distance. Believing it to be someone bringing a light, he made his way. The problem was when he got too close, he was sucked in like it was a vacuum. Naruto blinked as he found himself within the forest. However, the rift was now gone. What just happened, he thought to himself. His eyes widened when he noticed the trees. The trees that weren't so tall were now reaching up to the heavens. He was a young child, so he tended to exaggerate things, but they were indeed colossal. Massive vines were larger than houses. He stepped on something, only for a strange little creature to jump, causing him to shout. As it immediately landed on his face, he grabbed it and threw it away. What the hell was that, he said. His attention alerted something. For the first time in his life, Naruto released a scream of so much terror that, well, he almost wet himself. Give him a break, he was a 3-year-old child. There was a monster. It had one eye. It was gray and massive. A tiny horn on top of its head. It saw him and licked its lips. It wanted to eat him. All Naruto could do was scream and continue to scream. My, as Naruto snapped his head behind him, his voice immediately catching in his throat, as a beautiful woman leaned down, looking at him. It was Selena. What is a cutie pie like you doing all out here by yourself? As the massive ogre beast in front of him tried to grab the both of them. No, you don't, Selena said as she raised her hand. The thing was lifted into the air and blown for miles. Naruto was shocked. Someone came hovering down. As they were calling out Selena's name, it was Milo. She landed on the ground, looking down at Naruto. What is this? He looks tasty. Can I eat him? Once again, Naruto screamed as he backpedaled. However, he tripped, and he had candy in his pocket that fell out. Milo caught one of them. She sniffed it first before she threw it in her mouth, wrapper included. Her eyes light up in delight. It's amazing, she said, gobbling up the others. It's alright, Selena said. There's no need to be afraid. You're okay, she said to him, as she picked Naruto up in her arms, like he was a baby. He was 3 years old, but still. He was simply confused, not quite understanding what the hell was going on, and where he was, and why did that one have horns, he thought to himself. End of flashback. So it turns out I was in another world, Naruto said to Hiruzen. I wasn't sure at first what had happened, but Selena and Milo, they started to make me understand. They felt it. They were able to feel the dimensional shift, knowing that I wasn't from this world. and seeing that, they took me in. They told me from day one that I would not be there forever, that it will return. After a couple of weeks, that turned into months, and a year passed by. I figured that I would never be able to return back home. So I started to blend into the society that was there. They call their world Valara. Valara is a world that consists of many different things. You had small woodland creatures, elves, fairies, demons, vampires, all sorts of things that we read in books here. They're real over there. Dragons, powerful being. In fact, Milo is a demon, a very powerful one, given the fact that she tried to eat me the first time we met. Selena is half human and half fairy. She's extremely powerful and extremely nice, Naruto said with a smile on his face. I later found out that they had other friends. A young man named Natsu. He became like an older brother to me. He was cool, great to hang out with. And then you had Might, the physical strongest of the group. He was like their teacher, despite not being able to teach them anything. But he just carried that old wisdom about him. He's a lot like you, said Naruto. They took me into their home and they started to treat me like one of them. They allowed me to learn many things. Allow me to find out that I have the nine tails sealed inside of me. Harrison's eyes widened when he heard that, as he looked at the boy. However, he did not interrupt as Naruto was continuing. Milo was able to go into my subconscious. She was able to unravel the seal, and that is how I met my parents. This time Harrison had to interject it. You what? Yeah, I met them, said Naruto. It turns out that my dad had sealed mom and himself Chakra inside of my seal before they passed away. They told me everything. And they told me why. Why you wouldn't have been able to tell me the truth. Knowing how much out there would try to end my life if they found out that I was alive and Minato Namikaze's son. They were frightened that I was here on this world, but after meeting the others, they realized that I was in safe hand and also believed that one day I'll be able to go back home. Since that day, we went through a lot. They brought me all around the world. Just like this world, there's a lot of bad people over there as well. People that seek destruction and chaos. It was after a few years that I find out exactly why I was there. The dimensional rift wasn't an accident. It was masterminded by a very powerful man that seek to breach into other dimensions to spread his influence and power. However, he was unsuccessful each time. While I was able to go there, none of them can come over here because the breach would not let them. So I guess we'll just have to hope that he never truly find a way to come to this world. Harrison was worried when he heard that, as that immediately brought a lot of trepidation to know that there was a man out there that was trying to enter their world and perhaps even conquer it. But he allowed Naruto to continue. You were asking about my age. Well, Milo brought me to a very diluted place where time doesn't flow naturally. And I spent a lot of time there, which when I came out back, time had not passed that much in the real world there. So that is why I'm 3 years older, said Naruto. I went on a lot of adventures with them, all over the place. I saw things that I never expected to even ever see in my entire life. I went up against so much creatures, so much monsters. But it was fun being there with my family, said Naruto. However, the rift appeared. After all those years, it appeared once again. And I knew that I only had days before it closed. And when it was going to close, it was going to take me with it. So I spend the remainder of time saying my goodbyes. And well, now I'm here, Naruto said. He left out a huge chunk of the story, but that was the main drift of what he had said. As Hiruzen spent the next 2 hours speaking with the boy, understanding many things about this man, Naruto claimed that he didn't have much detail on the one that created the rift. As he spoke to Hiruzen, after their conversation came to an end, Hiruzen stepped out. Hayashi Hyuga, the most talented Hyuga, stood there as he was looking through the window, the one-way mirror. Either the boy has learned how to lie in a way that cannot be detected by any, because if the Byakugan cannot see it, no one else can. Or the worst possible reason, he's telling the truth. Wait, why is that the worst reason? You heard what he said yourself about this person that seeks to breach into our dimension. While most of this sound crazy and hard to believe, we can't believe that in this vast, known sorts of different outside planets, that we are the only ones existing. However, his explanation, his talks about another world. There are a lot to take on, Hayashi said. However, if this person is successful, with a mere statement of what he has said, this other world seems to possess a great amount of power that perhaps we of the elemental nation are not ready to even see. Well, Naruto say that he has been unsuccessful. And this is not the only world that has been merged through the rift. So there's a good chance that we won't be affected by this. Let us hope, Hayashi said, as this was not how he expected his day to go, and it was blowing his mind. Furthermore, that boy was the son of Minato Namikaze. Now that was a shocker as well. The boy had went missing a long time ago. Much information had not been given about that. Now he understood the secrecy, even for the council members, why Hiruzen was so distraught about it, believing that the boy was taken right under their nose, but that was not the case. And because of that, Danzo was unable to gain much of Hiruzen's power. So no one knew that Naruto was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. However, there was something else, as Hiruzen brought someone else. Naruto seemed to have no problem with his mind being invaded. However, there was a problem though. The Nine-Tails, Inoichi Yamanaka, would not dare to risk going to his subconscious. With that beast lurking in there, it would tear him apart. As both men were in the room with Naruto chuckled. There's no need to worry about that, he said. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at that as Naruto pressed his hand down on the table. The next moment, smoke filled the area. Anna Chibi, Nine-Tailed Fox appeared. Both men were startled and took a step back, despite the size. What? It can't be, Hiruzen said. Kurama yawned, exposing his sharp, deadly teeth, as he started to chuckle. Yes, fear me, he said. I am the mighty Nine-Tails, and you will bow in my presence, otherwise I'll rip you to shreds. As a red, glowing aura started to generate around him, both men started to panic, fearing the worst. However, Naruto slapped him over the head. Would you cut it out, he said. Now that took away a lot of the feelings that they were currently feeling at the moment. The Nine-Tails turned his gaze towards Naruto. How dare you, he said. He jumped on Naruto's face and started to scratch the hell out of him. However, Naruto grabbed him and threw him into the wall. He got back up and crashed into Naruto's stomach. They crashed through the wall like it was nothing. as they crashed to another one. However, a moment later, Hiruzen, who went to look at the duck as the Ninetales came sailing away, his tails ripping through the wall as he stopped himself. He opened his mouth and shot a beam towards Naruto. Hiruzen's eyes widened, but Naruto reached out and grabbed the thing in his hand. It exploded. When the smoke and dust cleared though, the bruises on his hands was just that, bruises. Tiny bruises that did not show any sign of any bleeding. Look what you've done. You know that they're going to be afraid of you if you keep on acting this way. And who says that isn't what I want? Kurama said, marching up towards Naruto. Naruto slammed his hand down as the fox poofed away. He looked at the destruction that they caused. Sorry about that. Both men's eyes were wide and greatly confused. Would you mind explaining what exactly was that? A few moments later. So, the Ninetales is not just a walking mass of destruction. No, he's not, said Naruto. His face was serious when Inuichi said that. The man noticed that Naruto took offense to that. Oh, I didn't mean it that way, I just... It's understandable, but he's not. But all those years ago, Inuichi said about that. There is a lot that many don't know on why the Ninetales attacked the village. We can talk about that later, he said to Hiruzen. His words leading Hiruzen to believe that there was much that he did not know was going on. About that mind search thing. Go ahead, said Naruto, you're gonna be fine. Inuichi went through with it. However, after a few minutes of being within Naruto's mind, he stepped back. The man looked absolutely terrified. What's wrong? What did you see? Hiruzen said. That training, Inuichi said. Is that... Even Naruto started to shiver. Yeah, it's real, Naruto said. Flashback. You're joking, right? Naruto asks. Now 10 years old. What do you mean? Child's play, said Naruto. In front of him was none other than his physical teacher, Might. Yes, I mean what I said Might. So you're telling me that for the past 4 years, as he started training Naruto when he was 6, that training I've been doing was what? That was just to get your body ready for the real training. The real training? Yes, he said. Because until you're able to do this, he brought his fist down on the mountainside that they were on and caused a goddamn avalanche. The entire place crushed downwards with the debris and destruction that rained. I will not see your strength as suitable. I think about 4 years should be enough. Your body do adapts really quickly. And I will mold you into the perfect subject. Naruto gulp. Now, you must survive. Survive what? Before Naruto could say anything, he punched Naruto. Not too hard, but he punched him off the goddamn cliff. What the hell? Naruto screamed. End of flashback. That wasn't all that Inuichi saw. Naruto was able to physically stop Inuichi from viewing all of his memories. He just saw the ones that Naruto wanted him to see. Most of the training and the friends that he's made. Inuichi was terrified. A veteran that had seen war was terrified. As no normal human, no one should ever have to go through training like that. There were days where Naruto had to do so many pull-ups, run for so long, punch a specialized bag for so long that his bones became so brittle. However, Lovely Selena could heal him back to full strength. So yes, it was hell. The mere mention of it caused Naruto to shiver in fear, remembering how horrendous it truly was. It was terrible. Really, really terrible. He was glad that he was done with that part, as his strength had been more than suitable. As said by Might, Naruto adapted really quickly, learned from his surroundings and his environment. Confirming all that Naruto had said, Might had trained him physically. Selena had trained him spiritually. Milo had trained him how to truly control his chakra. Spiritual training and chakra training was different. Milo was a walking destruction. She had so much power. She could wipe out a mountain like that. As for Natsu was an expert in all weapons. Every single weapon, not to mention his speed. Natsu was insanely fast. That world had weapons that the elemental nation was not ready for, and Natsu created some of them. Naruto had brought things back with him, but nothing that destructive. Nothing at all. Now it was clarified that everything that Naruto said was truthful. Inoichi and Hayashi were sworn to secrecy, to not breathe a word of what they hear today, until Hiruzen know how to properly handle the situation, as he would reintroduce Naruto to the council. However, he's never seen Inoichi so frazzled before, by just witnessing training. However, he supposed what Naruto been through was not much training but hell, as Naruto described it. As for the Nine Tails, the Nine Tails was a very powerful beast, but well, Milo was a monster. Flashback. Massive paws drop as the demonic eyes of the Nine Tails rage. Who dares enter this place? He said, trying to be intimidating. Whoa, what are you? Milo said, having entered Naruto's subconscious after feeling the destructive power, the chaos inside of him. The Nine Tails gazed down towards the girl, as Milo flew straight forward, but immediately, before she could go through the bars, the seal activated and stopped her. She looked at it as she flew up to meet it. Now that's interesting. The Nine Tails shoved his claw out, forcing Milo to pull back. He tried to rip her apart. Milo lost it. Let's just say Kurama saw things and witnessed things that not even a being like himself should witness and see. Then again, it's not like Kurama was a weak little beast. All of the vile animals here, none of them in that forest stood a chance against Kurama if he was free. He would bulldoze through them. However, Milo was not using raw destructive power. She was using magic, specialized magic, that could harm Kurama in many ways. Magic that could even destroy him and take a very long while to ever repair. Perhaps to an extent if she truly went insane, she could perhaps wipe Kurama away completely and destroy his essence. Because Milo wasn't just a normal demon. She was the demon queen. However, she wasn't evil. Well, evil is a rather hard way to describe many things. She had slaughtered many, but Milo loved to eat and loved to fight people that are strong as her, that would not break so easily. She tried to eat Naruto for a couple of weeks after he had arrived, but Selena always kept him safe. But she just wanted to be his friend, because after they became friends, she stopped trying to eat him. Flashback to that time. My friend? Yeah, said Naruto. I mean, I like Selena a lot, she's my friend as well. And I don't know how long I'm going to be here. So why don't we be friends? A new friend, huh? And friends can't eat each other, said Naruto. But you look so yummy. You've said that a lot of times. Alright, fine. She said as she flew towards him and hugged him. You're my new friend. Milo, said Naruto. Sorry, she said, as she was biting him on the shoulder. She stopped herself and nuzzled on his neck. At least she wasn't trying to eat him. Back to the original time. Milo had threatened to destroy Kurama if he did not cooperate. Seeing that he was stuck inside of Naruto and they could destroy him, he was forced to cooperate, at first unwillingly. With the help of Milo and Selena, using their magic they were able to undo the Death Reaper seal. That was how powerful they were. And in doing so, Naruto met his parents. Kurama was still bonded to Naruto, courtesy of Selena, to make sure that the fox would be there, noticing the special healing qualities that it offered Naruto. So yes, they were still bonded together. After much time, a few years in fact, they started to actually get along. As Kurama started to realize that Naruto wasn't like your average human, who didn't force him to do anything. He wanted to get strong all on his own. Kurama even told the boy his name, something that was a great honor, and the way Naruto reacted to hearing that solidified Kurama claims. Flashback. Your name is Kurama? And yet I thought that you were the Ninetales all along. That's awesome, said Naruto. He was happy. A memory went through Kurama's mind. One day, you will find someone that unify you all. His father, the Sage of Six Paths, had told him. And he believed that this boy was him. Yes, he was. In the flashback, ever since the both of them had been good. Seeing that Naruto could literally let him out, the seal was no longer on him, but they were still bonded together by their chakra. Naruto could let him out and bring him back inside. Kurama did not wish to leave Naruto's side, as Naruto had given him the option, but Kurama did not want to go, having found someone that he could truly bond with. Something that he never had since his father. So yes, he stood by Naruto's side, given the form that he usually appeared in when Naruto summoned him, so he wouldn't be that large. Naruto always made jokes, which led to their little back and front now. In that world, Kurama saw powers that were close to his a lot. Giant dragons that were able to split the heavens. And many of the creatures there did not fear him. Yes, he slaughtered them, but they did not give him the fear that he deserved. So that is why he tried to put the fear of Kami into Hiruzen and Inoichi. In the flashback. Well, a lot was said on that day, as Hiruzen already had accommodations made for Naruto so that he would have somewhere to rest his head. Time skip. Naruto did not have magical powers. No, he did not. He had chakra. However, Milo and Selena taught him how to use his chakra in ways that people on the elemental nation never imagined. You see, chakra was made up of spiritual and physical energy, yes, but it was still energy, and magic was a form of energy as well. They placed Naruto in a place known as a magical spear. Flashback. Naruto was standing in a massive globe. He was stuck inside. There was no exit. He wondered how he was breathing, how the air was getting in. They told him that they were going to stimulate his chakra. He was greatly confused about that. But they told him that it was something that would be able to help him They did not tell him that the process would be horrendously painful. When Naruto woke up after blacking out, he felt different, strange. Selena was holding him in her lap. He was 7 years old, but it was comfortable and nice, although he could not see her face because of her chest. As she explained to him what they did, his body had several points inside of it that generate chakra. However, that also made him weak. Because they were limited, they were small, and there was a amount of chakra that he could generate before things got too hectic and they rupture. Because of the way they want him to generate it, they didn't want him to just use it like that. They want him to make it swirl and flow, like their magical abilities, like their mana. So yes, they quickly taught him how to do that after. They told him that they were able to open these points, and they were able to rearrange them with forcefully hitting them with magic. But he could never truly gain magic though, so they were going to mimic it. And Naruto Chakra would be a perfect substitute. So that is what they did. Selena told him that he needed to feel it like he was feeling air itself. Don't let it come out. Let it flow. As it was there and he was there as well. Combine with it. Become one with it. In doing so, Naruto did something though. His chakra linked with the fox more than they originally thought, which was a sided benefit of that, as he was able to quadruple the amount that he was able to use at once. And in doing so, they taught him how to use it like how they did. There were things that he could not do, of course, because while it was mimicking magic, it was still not magic. However, the elements and several other things were at his disposal. End of flashback. Hiruzen had gotten towards a one-bedroom apartment, as he was taking care of the expenses. However, Naruto did desire to be a ninja. He had a long conversation with his parents. That was because of Selena. She was able to fuel their power with her own. That keep them around for much longer than they should have been there. So Naruto knew about ninja, he knew about a lot. He also knew that a man forcefully extract the nine tails out of his mother. A man that his father believed is Madara Uchiha. However, Naruto found it rather strange because his father told him that the man was there with the first Hokage and he was dead. His age did not make much sense, but sometimes things did not make much sense at all. So yes, a lot had happened from then, as Naruto had trained really hard, knowing that one day he would be going back home to find and put an end to this man for what he did. Although, despite losing his parents, he was able to meet wonderful people, but he would have liked to have his parents same way. He would have liked to have known them. He would have liked to have them raise him. Yes, he would have really loved that. As Naruto got dressed, he was wearing a black t-shirt, open colored, exposing a bit of his chest, along with dark blue pants, and he was wearing flat footwear. His clothing looked like theirs, but there were certain modifications and certain different styles that weren't within the elemental nation. Naruto was looking at a photograph of all of them, and it brought a sad gaze to his eyes. He really missed them already. Poof! Kurama appeared on his shoulder. The fox could also come out when he wanted to. However, his strength would be drastically reduced, as he was within his smaller form. "Cheer up, you brat," he said. "Remember what that hulking man had told you." Naruto smiled as he remembered. "I suppose you're right. This isn't a time to be sad. This is just a new adventure. And I really like adventures, he said, remembering Mike rather well. Once again, Naruto went to speak with the Hokage. As they spoke to one another, Naruto told him in secrecy of what happened that night. However, Naruto was surprised to hear that the Uchiha clan was no longer here. His father had said that the one that he fought had a Sharingan. That is why Naruto had not revealed the information just yet. The Uchiha clan was massacred, leaving only one person, a boy named Sasuke Uchiha. So if the person that was behind the summoning was a part of the clan, they were perhaps dead now. Or was this person Itachi Uchiha? However, Hiruzen really doubt that. At the time, Itachi was a child, as Naruto see where he was going with that, so yes, it was someone that wasn't a part of the village. Now knowing this, that the threat's out there, and the threat might be Madara Uchiha after all, Minato went up against this man. Inoichi had seen none of this. Hiruzen was surprised when he questioned Naruto on that, learning that Naruto could literally block people from seeing his memory. Inoichi was the best, and yet he himself did not suspect any of that. How so? It simply revealed a lot more about Naruto. However, Hiruzen would like to see all of that with his own eyes. Naruto has been through a lot. He's done a lot. He would like to see what the training in that new world had truly gifted him with his own eyes. Hearing that, Naruto simply smirked. It wasn't the first time that someone asked him to demonstrate his strength. After all, he met a lot of other people in that world. Someone came to mind, but he shook his head, focusing back on the task. He slammed his fist right into his palm. "Alright then, old man," he said. "I'll show you what I can do, and I promise you that you'll be really surprised." But guys, be into right here. If you want to see next part and do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification as they posted. Remember, share all of your friends in your social media platform. And also don't forget to go ahead and check out the other what ifs over in the other channels. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.